Good morning, Goenkans. Hope you're doing well. So today we'll be discussing the living organism and their surroundings from your science textbook, chapter number 9. In this chapter, we will try to understand the basic characteristic feature of a living organism. So the first basic characteristic feature of a living organism is cellular structure. What do we mean by the cellular structure? Is basically that all living organisms are made up of a tiny basic units, and that's what we call the cells. Or rather, we should say that a cell can be defined as a structural and the functional unit of a living organism. You should remember that some of the organisms are made up of single cells, which we call the unicellular organism. Examples are there, paramecium, amoeba, etc. And where we have got the organism which are made up of many cells, we call them multicellular organism. Again, we have got a number of examples for that, like we have got human beings, plants, animals, right? So basically any organism that is made up of one cell is belonging to this category. Other than that, you should remember that all living organisms begin their life from a basic unit of life. That's what you call the cell or a single cell, right? So it is one of the basic characteristic feature of a living organism. Next to that is the nutrition, or we can say the food. We know that every living organism needs food for their growth, for their development, and we know that food is a source of energy. And any organism that need their food for their carrying out any particular function of their body is basically belonging to the category. That's what we call the living organism. Next to that is the growth. As I said, that when we take the food, it is for the development, for the growth, right? So all living organisms show growth. However, you should remember that plants grow throughout their life, whereas animals grow to a certain age, right? So growth is basically because of the food, because they are taking the food, and of course when they are taking food, it is helping them to grow and develop. And any organism that show these both the characteristics features are belonging to the living organisms, right? Next to that is a respiration. Respiration is another type of a characteristic feature which actually can be defined as an gaseous exchange. The process of inhalation, that is taking air, and exhalation, that is taking out the air or throwing out the air, is called breathing, right? Breathing is a part of respiration process, right? And the process of respiration enables the body to obtain energy from the food they had already consumed, right? So all living organisms need to respire to carry out their life, right? So of course the gaseous exchange may be different, like for example humans are taking oxygen whereas plants are taking carbon dioxide. So it's better to say that a gaseous exchange, if there is an respiration in an organism, we can consider them as a living organism. Next to that is a response to stimulus. Stimulus is basically defined as any change in the surroundings or environment of an organism, right? So for example, there is any change, say for example few days back it was raining, and we start putting the pullovers or sweaters. That rain actually was a stimulus, and our reaction to it was a response, fine. So all living organisms show response to the stimuli, right? And if it is happening with an organism, that belongs to the category. That's what we call the living organism. So this is all for today, and I will be coming up with the more characteristic features right now. Thank you so much for joining.